If you give a person a fish, you feed them for a day. If you teach them how to fish, you feed them for a lifetime. This is a Chinese proverb, which has to do with what we're going to be talking about today on this foggy day in the Maine coast. So pretty much every day this summer, right? We're going to continue with the theme of water as a part of our lessons on nature. But as much as anything, today's lesson is about reciprocity. And reciprocity is like love your neighbor as yourself. So treating people, others, and helping them how you want to be treated. And each and every one of us can, in fact, contribute to our community, no matter how old or young or what our talents or abilities are. So I'm going to start with a story about the Kaken Water Project. And this was based on the experiences of a minister, Mike Young, in Honolulu, Hawaii. Sometimes the moment you meet someone, you know they will be a very important friend in your life. Other times, friendships start slowly. You might not know how important the friendship is for many years. The partnership between a congregation in Honolulu, Hawaii, and at a church in Kaiken, the Philippines, began slowly, with children exchanging letters and pictures. After some years, Mike Young, the minister of a church in Honolulu, had a chance to visit the Philippines, and he went to Kaiken. He met many generous, wonderful people at the partner church, but it was the children he fell in love with. One time, a whole crowd, all ages, came swimming with him in the ocean in their coastal village. The next year, Reverend Young went back to the Philippines, and again, he spent a few days in Kaiken. Again, he swam in the ocean with the children. This time, one of their ministers came swimming too. Mike let the children use the dive mask he had brought. It was too big for them, so some water leaked in, but the Kaiken children didn't mind because the hot mask helped them see their ocean fish up close and personal. Back on land, a Kaiken minister, Reverend Tirso Ponca, took Mike to one of the village's hand pump wells to wash off the salt water. The fresh water felt really good, and Reverend Young cupped his hands to take a drink. Reverend Ponca sounded angry. He told Mike, "You must never do that. The water's not safe." Later, Mike learned why Reverend Ponca had tried to protect him. For 20 years, the children of Kaiken had been born with yellow eyes. They had a condition called jaundice, a sign of disease called hepatitis A. Hepatitis germs were in well water, the water he wanted to drink. Kaiken's simple septic tank and shallow aquifer could not adequately filter and recycle the village's water. So water used for bathing and washing came back again through the public hand pump wells. The village of Kaiken had no safe water to drink. Mike Young decided right then, babies in Kaiken would no longer be born with yellow eyes. Now he knew their congregation's partnership could be so much more than the letters, photograph, or even the visits and playing in the ocean together. In his heart, Reverend Young had already begun the Kaiken Water Project. In a true partnership, partners make plans together. Reverend Young had to find out if the people of Kaiken wanted to work on getting clean water for the village. Maybe there was something else more important the congregation could help them get done. So the people of Kaiken had community meetings. They talked about what was good about life in Kaiken and ways they could make life even better. They listed problems they had and tried to solve in the past and what had worked to solve them. For problems that were not solved yet, the people talked about what they could do differently to reach a solution. They talked about the time, the money, and other resources they already had, which they could use to create solutions. They talked about ways the local organizations or the government could help. Because some people don't like to talk at big meetings, community members went around to each person's house to talk with them individually. Everyone had a chance to give their ideas to make life in Kaiken even better. And the result of all this talk? Well, the people of Kaiken agreed that clean water was a top priority to work on with their partner, the church in Honolulu. After Mike Young went home into Hawaii, the Kaiken people elected a committee to lead the water project. they started looking for some sources of clean water. They looked upstream of their aquifer and upstream of the recycling septic system. They found a clean flowing spring that seemed to produce enough water for the village. The owner of the land agreed they could drill a well and put a pump there. When Mike returned to Kiken, a happy parade of children, teenagers, and adults took the American minister to see. At first, it seemed getting water from the spring would be a lot of work. They had to dig a well, get the pump and a tank, and lay almost 2 miles of pipe to bring that water to Kiken. They had to provide ways for the people along the pipeline to get water, set up another tank, and build faucets. But sometimes we get ahead of ourselves with what a big job we've got. Reverend Young remembered the first step was just to drill the well and make sure the water would be really clean to drink. Drilling the well cost $385, which is a fortune in the Philippines, but not so much for the American congregation to raise. The church in Honolulu sent the money. The well was dug and everyone waited for test results. Would the water be safe to drink? Well, they found out the new well was not polluted, not with hepatitis. Oh, they found it was polluted, not with hepatitis, but with common bacteria, E. coli. So the people cleaned the wellhead and pumped more water. This time, the test came back clean. Plans went ahead to lay pipe and build 6 faucets so the village would have drinkable water. Soon, maybe there would be a tap in every home, and Kiken babies would no longer be born with yellow eyes. It sounds like a happy ending, a partnership that started out as letters and photos and became very, very important. But there were 2 surprising results. One is just as the Honolulu partners helped Kiken's congregation to bring their village clean water, the Kiken congregation helped other villages in the Philippines, so sort of like paying it forward, right? So the Kiken villagers now teach other people in other communities to organize meetings and have interviews that bring good community solutions to real community problems. So they're able to share what they learned and spread it across to other communities as well. So Reverend Young's impact wasn't just on the Kiken community itself, it was spread across to many other communities as well. Unfortunately, another surprise, a not so happy one, is that the water improvement in Kiken may worsen the village's sewage problem because more water, because the water was better, they used more of it, and that meant more flushing. So Reverend Young knows the partnership's work is not yet finished and that there's more to do. The next project is inevitable, a sewage system for Kiken that works. And this is just one more way that everything is connected. So there's lots to talk about with the story. One thing, just sort of from a scientific and land use planning perspective, I was a land use planner in school and did some work with the town of Mount Desert with planning. So it's sort of my area of things. And it's very important about where you get your water from and versus where your sewage goes. Because down under the earth, there's aquifers, which is cracks in the bedrock where water is stored. So you dig a well and you get down into these, aquifers, or even if you aren't down to the aquifers, water seeps down into them. So you have your sewage out there and it seeps down can seep down into the aquifers and into the water table. And if you dig a well near it, well, the bacteria from the sewage could get into your well water because sewage should seep down, it's in that, in the water, and it comes back up in the well. And there was a Goria outbreak in Boston a couple hundred years ago. And that's when, because everyone's wells was really close to their septic, and that's when people started first realizing, wait a minute, or a scientist and a doctor realized there was something going on there and figured out that the water was contaminated with bacteria from the sewage. So that's one important thing from the story. Now, Reverend Young went to ask many of the villagers their opinions, and they even went door to door. So why not just they had the meetings, why wasn't that good enough? Well, many people might not have been able to get to the meetings. They might have just not liked big crowds. They might have had the time to go because they're just so busy trying to take care of their families, or they might have been physically, they might not have been able to get to the meeting. So just because you have a meeting doesn't mean that that you aren't capturing everyone's opinion, that everyone that's there may not think what other people think. So it's important, if you want to get a sense of what's going on in the community and what people think, to get as wide a response from individuals as you can to know what they want to do. So Mike had this great idea about clean water, but that doesn't mean the community wants to do it. And he was really smart. Not only did he essentially bring clean water to this community, but he was really smart in that he made sure that people in the community wanted to do that first. So he had this grand old idea. He couldn't just go and do it. He held meetings. He worked with the current members of the community to have those meetings and to go door to door and make sure that people of Piken wanted to do this and that this was a top priority for them. So why didn't Reverend Mike's congregation, they could have just paid for the new well, right? Just said it wasn't a lot of money, $385 for a US congregation, that's not much. So they could have just got the money, built a well. But it was really important to take the time to go to the villagers and about the water situation. Because if they didn't have that buy-in, if they just did it, the villagers, some of them knew Mike, but some of them didn't. And someone comes in from the outside and builds this well, and they don't know if it's any good. They don't know why this guy did it. It would be a little weird, and they might not trust it. So they might just continue to use the old well and not use the new well. So it was really important you work with the community to make sure this is something, to establish that trust, to build that relationship of trust between him and the community, and to make sure it was something that they actually wanted to do and would utilize. So it must have felt really good for Mike that he had Mike Young, the Reverend, that he was able to help that community, because it can feel really good to give. Think of Christmas morning. It's great getting all those presents. But can you think of a time where you bought a present for someone and you were so excited about it, it was hard not to tell them about it? I know my sister, when she was a kid, she just was so excited about the gift she would buy me. She would really want to tell me. And one time she showed me the back of the box of what a gift was. I couldn't tell what it was, but she was just so excited about it. And that anticipation when they're opening your gift, you can't wait to see their excited surprise and joy that lights up their face when they get that gift from you. So it can feel really good to give. And sometimes giving can feel better than getting. So maybe the story inspires you to give some way in your life, to give to your community. So I'm going to pull up some questions for you that I want you to think about, and get a piece of paper and a pencil. And I want you to answer these questions as your assignment for this week. So as soon as the video is over, you can answer these questions. If I had more time to help out in my community, I would want to. I'm really good at. So what are your skills? Everyone's good at some things and bad at some things. And you might be able to use your own skills to do some good for the community. You could even maybe think of Fernjo. She just did this. I might be saying her name wrong. Swimmer who I know you guys know that has been made her second attempt to swim around MDI recently. So swimming is what she does well. So she used that skill to do something for the community. She raised money. She sort of did it as a fundraiser to raise money for Open Table MDI, which helps provide meals to the community. So she used her particular skill to do something good for the community. So think about the skills you have and what you could do. Maybe you're really good at gardening. Maybe you could help an elderly neighbor with their garden. So it all depends on the skills that you have. So think about next, which leads into the next question. One way I use my talent to help others is, what's something you do now to help other people with the skills that you have? Next, if I won $100, I would, what do you do? Buy yourself a new bike, or what's something you really want with $100? If I won $100 and wanted to give the money away, I would. Would you donate it to a certain organization on the island? Would you give it to someone else? Would you buy something with it that you would give to someone else? What would you do if you want to help someone? You had $100 to do it with. That would be pretty nice. So go ahead and answer those questions and take some time after the video is over to finish those up. And have a great week. Stay kind. Be kind to others. Be kind to yourself. And I'll see you next time.